This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. Delighted to be joined by WBA, WBC, IBF, WBO, Ring Magazine Super Lightweight Champion of the World, Josh Taylor. We're here in the, well, it looks like we're here somewhere tropical, but we're in Edinburgh today. How are you, Josh? Nice to see you.
Good, mate. It's good to have you up, and you've brought the weather down with you for London, so that's good, mate. It's good to have you up here and at my home.
Well, thanks very much for having me. We've been trying to sort out a Scotland trip for me for a few years now, and it seemed like as good a time as any after you becoming undisputed super lightweight champion to come and see you. So thanks very much for having me today, and yeah, it's good to see you, Josh. You're looking very happy with yourself, as well you should.
I am. I've obviously had a wee bit of time to sit back and relax and sort of think about what I've achieved. So I'm really happy with myself, really proud of myself. What I've achieved there. Only I think the fifth or the sixth person in boxing history to do this, and the first person in Britain to do it. I'm super proud of myself. Yeah, I'm very, very happy with myself and content with where I am at the minute. Yeah.
Now, we've spoken briefly off camera about the last, probably 4 to 6 weeks since the fight. Been slightly different than what you've grown accustomed to. Just tell me, if you can, what the last 4 or 6 weeks have been like.
It's been crazy. It's been mad since I've been back. The sort of reaction to the fight. When I was over there, the fight kind of went unnoticed. Not a lot of people saw it. But since I've been back, the reaction, the media response has been amazing. I've been away doing all sorts of stuff. I've been on Question of Sport, League of Their Own, doing all sorts of interviews, opening up shops and things like that. I've been up and down London up and down most weeks. And it's been crazy. I've been getting herded out, all over the place. So, it's been good. It's been pretty cool. But I'm finally now getting a wee bit of time to myself and get back to the gym and start back training again. So, it's been cool. It's been really cool.
Yeah, you finally got a little bit of time to yourself, and I decided to invade your home. So thanks very much for having me up here today. The last time I saw you, a few weeks before the fight, there was the fight was somewhat up in the air. I know you've mentioned it briefly in some other interviews and kind of talked to people about it. But tell people about what happened the last time I saw you. Obviously, I was in the gym, and I think it was something to do with the quarantine beforehand in Mexico.
Yeah, well, I think we were due to fly out, something like. I think it was the next week, I think, when you come down, and they put it on us like, oh, you're going to have to go to Mexico for 14 days to quarantine in Mexico, in New Mexico, or Mexico City, I think it was. Mexico City for 14 days, then travel on a plane, and then go to Vegas, and then and then get ready again and change another time zone and different food and that again, get settled in a hotel or a house and that again. I'd already booked and paid for the accommodation in the houses that I'd been paying for, staying in Vegas. It was just a nightmare. It was like, oh, you're going to have to go and sit there for 10 days or 12 days. I think it was 14 days actually. Yeah, 14 days in Mexico City, and use a gym over there, and sit in a bloody hotel for 4 weeks before the fight. And I was just like, nah, no way. It's like, I felt like, everything was sort of against me. The whole thing felt like everything was against me. Everything was stacked up against me. From then they were going on about some people weren't going to be able to come over because they never had the right visas and this and that. And it was it was a bit of a nightmare. It was a bit of a nightmare, yeah. And just the whole thing I felt like was against me. And I know it's a very small thing, but the first thing was the posters, Ramirez Taylor instead of Taylor Ramirez. For sure, I was the A side in that fight. I had the IBF, the WBA, and the Ring Magazine, so I was the A side in the fight. And then they put Ramirez Taylor on the poster, so that was the first thing. And then the second thing was that the quarantine over in Mexico, hitting us with having to go to Mexico like 10 days before to fly out. And then we got there, and then it was like, the judges and the referee. I sort of was against the judges that put the same three judges they did with him against Postal fight, and I was like, this just doesn't go my way at all, So I was like, no, I'll not say anything because I might rub them up the wrong way. They might try to rob me, which they did. They tried to rob me anyway, and then the referee, the one referee I didn't want was Kenny Bayless, and they shoved him in there. It was like, fucking hell. Everyone's just stacked against me, and the odds are just stacked against me, and it made the victory so much sweeter because I beat all the odds and beat all the things that were stacked against me. So it was a really sweet victory.
In the build up to that, and I know it's something that you've spoken about previously, does that kind of galvanise you, that kind of siege mentality of us against them, me against the world? Because I mean, we'll come on to speak about kind of fight week and the fight week antics, but you strike me and have done in the past as the type of fighter who would thrive off of that, going against that type of adversity.
Yeah, it does. It just adds more fuel to my fire. I don't mind things being against me. The things have been against me my whole career. Everyone's always been a step too far, or someone's too good, or everyone's always been it's always been a step too far or too soon. So I like that. It gives me the challenge. It gives me the anger and the fear, and lets me bottle it up and use it on fight night and use it in my training as motivation.
So I just mentioned Fight Week. Fight Week was very spicy, as we've kind of grown accustomed to seeing from some of your fight weeks, especially obviously the Ahara Davis fight springs to mind. Just to kind of clear that up, how much of that is kind of show and theatre, and how much is that you getting yourself into the zone ahead of the fight?
Most of it's just getting into the zone. It's I'm a nice, kind and placid guy, but on Fight Week, as soon as I see my opponent, it's like I just want to get in there and I just want to smash him there and then. I don't want to wait till Saturday to have a fight with you. I want to smash you now. It's just the way I get. It's just once I see my opponent face to face on Fight Week, it's like I just want to smash his face in there and then. I don't want to be sitting around and talking to him and being this and being. I just want to get in and fight. I'm respectful, but as soon as I see them face to face and go doing that stuff, it's like fight on to me. I just want to fight then. So it's I'm a bit of a firecracker that way, but it's just the competitive nature of me. I just want to win and I want to fight. So I don't like the hanging around. I'd rather do than all the face to face. I'd be cool and placid all week. The Kong Song fight, I was totally different. I was cool, laid back and relaxed. And even the Ramirez fight, I was up until 3 days before the fight. I seen Ramirez and his face to face, and and his manager was being a prick as well in the past. So I had the fire in my stomach, and I just wanted to batter him. So it's kind of just who I am on Fight Week.
Do you think that had any bearing on the fight? It looked to me, at least, certainly the first face-off that you did, that Ramirez didn't quite look into it. He didn't really look like he knew how to take what you were kind of giving him. Did you feel that on Fight Week? Yeah,
I wanted to wind him up, because he's a nice guy. He was a nice guy, and he's a nice person. He does a lot of things for the community, and he's an activist and doing stuff. So, a family man as well, and I thought he was a really nice guy, a really cool guy. So it was kind of hard to, I had to find something about him not to like, and I had to just try and wind him up, and I started winding him up, and he didn't like it. I think I beat him mentally, and before the fight even happened, before the fight started, I thought I beat him mentally, and I had the upper edge on him in all the mental battles on the week, and then even the toin cost. The toin cost was the only thing that went my way in the lead up to the fight. In terms of having to go to quarantine and doing this and doing that, and the judges and the referees and all that kind of thing. The coin toss was the only thing that went my way, and I think that was the final sort of nail in the coffin of the Fight Week sort of build up. Was me getting to win that toin cost, and you could see it in him. He was kind of deflated, and me walking out last. I know it's small things, but it plays on your mind, and I just knew I had to wind him up and use his aggression against him, and that's what I did. I think I beat him and his whole team mentally before the fight.
How important is it, and how wary are you of kind of overstepping the line in Fight Week, keeping control of your emotions? Because obviously it revs you up. You're that type of fighter anyway. But there has to be a point where you can't risk going across, forgetting the game plan, etc. Is there a moment where you kind of have to be wary of that in Fight Week?
Yeah, you know when to stop. Yeah, you know when to stop. And I know there was a few things on and the day before the fight, but that was literally I got ambushed by about 100 of his fans and family and all that. And he actually put his hands on me, but you can't see it on the camera. You only see me sort of pushing him. But he sort of like poked his in the chest and was barking at me in front of all his friends and family when I was going to the lift to go up to my room. And I says, "Oh, fuck you." And I fucking shoved him out of the way, and then everybody started sort of fighting and that. But no, that was just it's just the fighting competitive nature and on both sides, So it was just I know not when to stop. You know what not to say to people and things like that.
Before we talk about the fight itself, let's talk about Ben Davison. Of course, it's your second fight with Ben, but I think it's fair to say the first fight happened in Conton wasn't on the same level as a Jose Ramirez fight.
Yeah.
Talk to me about camp preparation for Jose Ramirez. I came down, I think, 4 weeks out from the fight, 4 to 5 weeks out from the fight, saw some of the bits you were working on.
Yeah.
What things were you working on with Ben? What worked well in the fight? What maybe didn't work as well in the fight?
I think everything worked in the fight. Everything that we worked on and thought would worked perfectly. I think that was a nice long training camp, slow training camp, nice easy build up, So I got to the fight in peak condition, but not really having felt that I'd killed my body, like previously. Like I used to get to fight week and feel, that was a hard camp. It was a hard camp, but I was probably the fittest I've ever been there. But it felt like it was a nice long slow build up. I was training from January, about 2 weeks after my birthday. My 30th birthday, I was straight back down to London and preparing for it. So it was 5 months away from home, preparing nice and slow build up, working on techniques and working on certain sequences and things that we thought would work in the fight. Using the aggression against them, stopping my bouncing about that I do, and getting caught off beat and off balance, and getting caught on my toes. I was nice and planted in my feet and timing them and mixing up my jab, really mixing up my jab up and down and different paces and different power in it and different angles in it. It was just, we really worked on setting them up with the front hand leads and feints and in the backhand as well. Everything worked perfectly. So having a wee bit of hindsight, I knew he was a bit flagging and I knew he was hurting. I could have put my foot on the gas and stopped him. I really could have. But by round 7, round 8, my hands were really sore. Especially my right one was really sore. My left one was like a balloon. Like this was like a balloon right after the fight as well. So my hands were really sore. But I knew I was miles ahead in the fight. Well, thought I was miles ahead in the fight, and so I just decided to box him and keep it at an easy fight. It was quite an easy fight. It was I never really got into my top gear or anything like that. I could have performed a little bit better, yes, but I think it was a great performance and I made it easy. It was actually a really easy fight, to be fair.
You mentioned the backhand, and that's something I wanted to talk to you about. As somebody who's followed your career, that was the best that I've seen your backhand. Certainly the straight left hand. Was that something that, obviously you would have worked on it in camp with Ben, was that something that you've just wanted to improve generally, or was it something that you specifically wanted to work on for the Ramirez fight?
Yeah, it's something that we were improving generally as well, but it was something that we were working on for that fight as well. We knew that it was a sucker for the left hand, and the uppercut as well. So we knew that these shots were going to work, but we really worked on that, varying up my front hand and my jab and all sorts like that. Being a bit more planted but still moving around instead of bouncing around and things like that. And setting up the backhand and not rushing the backhand, falling right through the target and punching. We spent days, weeks, like a month or two working on my backhand and my jab and things like that. We're working on sort of basics, but getting the basics right and the fucking worked a treat.
Talk to me about the early rounds. The early rounds were a lot closer, obviously, than certainly the middle rounds were.
Sitting out here, Rob, I'm sweating.
That's okay, but it's showing that you're very fit. You're nice and hydrated, shall we say? That's all good. Talk to me about the early stages of the fight. It looked like Ramirez was a very strong fighter in those early rounds in particular. Did you feel his physical strength? Did he punch harder than you expected as well?
No, not really. He was quite physically strong, but not anything surprisingly. His punching power was okay. It was like it was hard sort of clubbing punching. It was nothing that bothered me at all. He never hurt me once in the fight. I thought I won the first 2 rounds, to be fair. I thought I won the first 2 rounds, and they had me. I think the Americans had me down the first 5 rounds or something. I think they had me down, but I thought I won the first 2 rounds. I lost round 3. maybe lost round 4, but I thought I won 5 and 6. You know, obviously knocked him down to 6 and 7. But then I don't think he really won a round after that. You know, I only gave him 3, maybe 4 rounds tops. I thought it was a relatively easy fight for me. I felt in control the whole fight. I controlled the first 2. Even the third round I took off and I let him hit me a bit too much. But even then I didn't feel like I was overwhelmed or anything like that. It was just I took my foot off the gas and let him have more success than he should have. You know, a little break in concentration really is all it was. But I felt I was in control of the pace and the way the fight went, the whole fight. So, no, it was quite an easy fight, really.
First knockdown in the 6th round, obviously a step back counter, straight left hand.
Yeah.
How much of that was drilled? I know obviously you and Ben, and particularly, well, Ben and Lee Wiley, who's also part of your training team, work on a lot of that stuff in between camp. You're very much drills. Yeah, how did that come about? Was it something that you kind of implemented on the fly, or was it something that you'd kind of gone into the fight looking to hit him with?
Well, we knew that he only really fights one way. Like, we knew that he wants to get in your face and wants to get on top of you and overwhelm you. So we knew that he would get eager to jump in, you know, so we were sort of threatening to punch him and, you know, threatening to be ready to punch, so he would hesitate and then feint him so he would come in. And he did. He did it all night, you know, and that shot worked a peach. We feinted him and he come in, he jumped in eager to get at me, stepped back left hand, and it worked beautifully. And that count was too long as well.
It certainly was. The count in the 6th round was long. The count in the 7th round was even longer. Before we talk about the count, a lot of people were discussing kind of the legality of the shot. Obviously, you punched him, as you were in the clinch coming out of the break. What was your recollection of it? Obviously, a lot of people have discussed kind of Kenny Bayless's refereeing for the knockdown in particular in the 7th round. What's your recollection of the 7th round knockdown?
Completely legitimate. It's protect yourself at all times, and plus the referee never shouted break or broke us up or anything, you know. So he was there, but he never done anything. He never got involved in the fight. You know, Ramirez obviously thought, right, we're in a clinch here. He's going to break us up, but he never took a wee step back. I made a bit of space. You see me sort of shoving, and I hit him with uppercut, and he had his hands down. So protect yourself at all times. You know, it's you didn't look at the referee to do you any favours in a fight. So. It's protect yourself at all times. I worked on that shot. We worked on the uppercut as well. So, it was a beautiful shot. A completely legitimate knockdown. You know, the referee never shouted break. The referee never even touched us really. So, it's a legitimate knockdown. It's a peach.
Were you surprised that he was able to recover?
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, I thought he was gone. He was gone in that round. He got up. His legs were away. And the fucking referee, he gave him about 20 odd seconds, 21 or 22 seconds before the action commenced. You know, he got up, checked his gloves, looked round, checked where I was, pushed me back, looked back at Ramirez, checked his gloves, done him again, looked back at me, pushed me back again. And you actually hear me going, ref, fucking hell, like, ref. And then he went right box, and then I think there was only like 10 seconds left in the round by that point. You know, and he was gone. You know, I had him on the ropes and he was ready to go, and the bell went. And then that's when you see me shouting at him, I went, you lucky motherfucker. And because he was lucky, you know, if the ref had let us go, I'd have finished them. Do
you think he was surprised? I mean, you've mentioned there about kind of varying the lead hand, step back and firing the backhand through, but do you think he was surprised with your ability to fight in that mid to close range?
Everyone is. Everybody thinks. I don't know why everybody is still surprised to this day. I'm brilliant on the inside. I can fight on the inside, and I love it being on the inside. I love getting in tight and getting the wee hooks and the sneaky uppercuts. It might be sneaky, but it's a legitimate shot, you know. And I can really fight on the inside. One of the best in the business on the inside. So I think I don't know why people are still surprised when they find that out. I don't know, it's maybe because I look tall and lanky and don't whatever, but once they're in there they find out the hard way.
Just checking how we're doing here for time. We're still 10 minutes away before we have to start again. You mentioned kind of not pushing on for the stoppage because you felt like you had the rounds in the bank. Was that risky in hindsight? Obviously you mentioned the fact that the fight was a lot closer on the cards and you had it and a lot of people had it. Was there no temptation for you to go out there and close the show?
Well, in hindsight, it was risky because they tried to rob me. 114, 112 on all 3 cards, which I'm bewildered to. It's way too close, and with the 2 knockdowns as well. It's like, nah, that was a bad scorecards, like bad, really bad. Shame on the judges for that. I think it was really bad, but in hindsight, it was risky, but at the same time, during the fight, I thought it was miles ahead. I thought it was way ahead, and at the same time, my hands were fucking hurting as well. So I thought, well, you're miles ahead in the fight here. Outbox them and win the fight, get it home, just bring it home. You know what I mean? That's what I thought. But obviously, in hindsight, I should have went there and stopped him. But my hands were really hurting in the fight.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing in boxing, well, anything, but certainly in boxing. You've always spoken about wanting to become not just world champion, undisputed champion, all the belts. You've got that. Talk to me, if you can remember at least, about the feeling of getting that decision when it was announced that you'd become undisputed champion. How did that feel?
I don't know really, I still don't know. I still don't know because I expected to do it. Do you know what I mean? I expected to do it, so when I got my hand raised, I wasn't overly surprised. I expected to win the fight, so it was just like, yes, I've done it. It wasn't until I got to the change room and I got a little bit emotional, like, fucking hell, I've done it, like, started crying, like, wow, what have I just done? I don't think I realised what I'd just achieved, really. Do you know what I mean? It was just, I was like, wow, I've done it. I got a wee bit overwhelmed with emotions, like, really proud and happy for myself, you know, and the team as well, you know. And it was just, even now I'm thinking about it, I'm getting a wee bit emotional. It's 15 years of just hard work and sacrificing myself to the sport and dedicating myself to what I do, you know, and to basically win the lottery, you know, and reach the pinnacle of the sport was just a sense of complete and utter pride and happiness, you know what I mean? It was a little bit emotional, like in the changing rooms, and it wasn't until I got back and sat back and I looked at the belts in the house and I'm like, oh, it's hard to put into words what I've just did, you know. It's I'm really, really proud of myself and really cementing my name in the history books as one of Britain's best to box, which is, I think, is a valid sort of opinion, you know. I'm not big-headed or anything like that, but down in the history books is one of the only British fighters to do this, and it's unbelievable.
We've mentioned Ben, who of course was your new trainer. Now somebody we haven't mentioned is Terry. Of course, your amateur coach, as well as being your amateur coach and been there from the start, really. I know somebody who is very much a mentor to you. Yeah. What did it mean to you to have him there? We've seen the pictures of you kind of embracing each other after the fight. That must have been such a special moment for you and Terry.
Brilliant. It's just, I love Terry, you know. I trust him with my life. He's like a second father to me. Been there since I was 17, 18 years old when I had no money. Sometimes he would give me a lenny 10, 15 quid to put petrol in my car, or, you know, when I had no money, you know, and things. I've just always been there and believed in me as well. And I think he really loved it as well, because we've been through a lot together, you know, and I like to take him everywhere with me. You know, he's been there for me. He really started getting my career really going at the time with Lock End, and took me under his wing when I was in the gym every day and I had no money. I never had gloves and stuff like that, and he was just there for me all the time. So for him to be there, you know, especially at a time when my family and Danielle, my mum, my dad, my sister couldn't come over with me at a time, but they've all sacrificed things as well. So to have Terry there with me and be in that moment with me was just really special. I'll never ever forget it, you know. It's I love the man so much. I love him.
Right, well, before we move on and talk about what's next and the many options that await you, somebody else who you caught up with after the fight, and I know that you've been looking to do it for a long time, yeah. Ken Buchanan. Now, you mentioned kind of being one of Britain's greatest ever fighters. That is one of Britain's greatest ever fighters, certainly one of Scotland's greatest ever fighters. I think the first time I interviewed you, you spoke about, you know, being undisputed like Ken Buchanan, like the great Ken Buchanan. You've done it now. I know he came over here. What was that like? That must have been great for you. Yeah,
it was brilliant. He came down here to the house and sat for about an hour. We had a cup of tea and things like that, and showed them my belts and that. And I says, look, I've done it just like you, champ, like I always wanted to say. He says, brilliant, son, brilliant. So happy for you. I knew you could do it. I knew you could do it. And he was sitting there, and it was just a kind of pinch me moment. I'm sitting with the former undisputed world champion, the only person in Scotland to do it, and then I've just emulated what he's just did, and it was just really a real cool moment for me, a really proud moment to have him there and saying, well done, I'm glad you've proved me right. And sat for a wee while and spoke about all his fights and that again, and that I'm never ever tired of hearing, all his experiences in boxing and that as well, so it was a really nice moment, really cool moment to pull it off.
You had that for yourself growing up and kind of using him as somebody to look towards and to really inspire you. What does it mean to you that now people are going to be looking at you? Scottish boys who are growing up and lacing up the gloves for the first time at amateur clubs are going to be looking at Josh Taylor from Preston Pans as somebody to emulate, somebody to inspire them. What does that mean to you?
It's brilliant, and it's now not a million miles away. It's a little lad for Preston Pans can do it. A lad that got on the bus after school, going away up to Edinburgh City Centre to get to a boxing gym. It's now not a million miles away. People know that you don't have to be from America or this or that. It can happen to you if you work hard and dedicate yourself and believe in yourself. It can happen. These things can happen, and I've been getting a lot of messages from people and from people's parents and that about their kids and that, saying that they're really inspired to be like me and things like that, and I've signed stuff for them or had a wee FaceTime with them and things like that, and it really makes their day and makes their week, and it just it's a really nice feeling knowing that you're giving kids, and not even kids but sometimes adults as well, inspiration and hope to go and do things for themselves, and it's a really nice feeling that I'm giving people inspiration and hope to go and do things that they want to go and do and chase things. It's a really nice feeling when I get these messages from people and see the impact that I have on people's lives. You don't think about that, but when you get these messages and that, it's mental. It's really nice. It's a really nice feeling knowing that people are taking inspiration from what I did.
Yeah, it's crazy to think in 20 years' time, 25 years' time, you could be going to Scotland's next undisputed champion's house for a cup of tea. It's funny how things like that work in boxing. So, you're now the champ. You're the man. You're the number 140-pounder in the world. There's no excuses. You've got all of the belts. You've now got a massive target on your back. You've got the bullseye on the back. The hunter becomes the hunted.
That's right. What's
next for Josh Taylor?
I'm not sure yet. I'm still not sure. Take it as it comes, really. I'm guessing all the governing bodies are going to start calling in their mandatories and stuff like that. So we're going to have to do something like that. Possibly the Jack Catterall fight next. Might be something else. Just don't know yet. So I'm going to speak to my management and have a good lengthy discussion now that I've had a bit of time to myself. I've not really spoke much with them, but we're going to speak soon and see what's happening. But we'll take it as it comes. I'll do what I want to do now. I'm the man with all the belts. I can do. I decide what next move I can make now. So we'll see what happens.
Obviously, the Jack Catterall fight is a mandatory from the WBO. He stepped aside to allow yourself and Jose Ramirez to unify all of the belts. So there's a possibility that fight doesn't happen. If that fight wasn't to happen, you'd be okay with potentially vacating the belt?
Listen, we'll see what happens. I would obviously like to give Jack that fight as well. I would like, because he did step aside. I would like to do that. But if something else comes along and there's another option there, then yeah, I'd be happy to vacate a belt. But we'll just wait and see what comes. I would like to give Jack the fight, though. I would like to give Jack the fight.
And it's of course an opportunity for you, again, something you've been saying for a long time, for years and years, to get that homecoming fight, that big fight, hopefully, touch wood, at Edinburgh Castle, as you've always dreamed of. Yeah,
and it would be huge as well. It would be the old enemy, Scotland versus England thing, and it would be amazing. Jack is a good lad, and he agreed to step aside to let me do that fight. So I would like to sort of honour that, but we just need to wait and see. I've not made up my mind to what's happening yet. What's the next move? So just wait and see what fights come about. But yeah, I think that's a great fight. But I think I win that fight quite handily. I think Jack's a great fighter, but I think I win that fight quite handily.
One of the things that people are constantly asking or constantly talking about on social media is Josh Taylor moving up to 147. How are you at the weight? You seem to have done the weight pretty well for the last fight, from what I can see at least, but how are you at 140 pounds?
I can be a career 140 pounder. I make the weight easy, especially now since I've brought in a nutritionist and things like that. I'm making the weight even easier now without a struggle. Really, I'm making it quite easy, so I can be a 140 pounder career. Career for the full career. I could if I really wanted to, but now I'm looking to cement legacy. Now, I'm looking to really cement my name and chase legacy fights and chase big fights. I've completed boxing at 140, so in that sense, I don't need to prove anything else to anybody at 140. I don't have anything else to prove. I've got all the belts, and then it's a case of if I want to fight people at 140 and stay at 140, I'll get all the mandatories and this and that. So I might not get the other big fights that I want at 140 anyway, because all the mandatories will be getting called. So we don't know. So there's an option of moving up to 147 as well and chasing your likes of your Crawfords and things like that. Your Spenceys and all the fighters up there with the big names. So I now want to cement my legacy now and get real good big fights.
Those are kind of the options for you stepping up. You mentioned Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, Manny Pacquiao, which we'll talk about later on. I know you're a huge fan of Manny Pacquiao. But you've also got the 135-pounders moving up, of which all of them seem to have something to say about Josh Taylor nowadays. Teofimo Lopez being one of them. Him and his dad have had some interesting things to say over the last 6 weeks. Would you welcome that fight if he wants to step up to 140?
If it's right, yeah, of course. Obviously, I'll fight anybody. Just wait and see what happens. I'm not going to rule out any fight. If it makes sense and everyone's right for me, everyone's right for me, and it's what I want to do, then we'll do it. I'm not scared to fight anybody. But he's got unfinished business at 135 to do. He's got to clean up his division. He's no undisputed champion. He keeps saying he isn't. So he needs to do that first if he wants to call himself undisputed champion at 135. He needs to get the Loma fight, the rematch. He needs to fight Devin Haney, he needs to fight Garcia and things like that as well to say that he's the best. He is a very good fighter. He's got 2 or 3 belts, but he's not the undisputed champion. So he's got unfinished business to do at 135. But if he came up and wanted that fight, then let's do it. Let's do it. I can beat them all up. I'm not afraid of any one of them. I can beat them all.
What do you make of his dad? Has always got interested. I'd like to see his dad and your dad have a discussion. But anyway, that's probably something for. It would be a good sight to see. Yes, maybe something that we can see in the future if you have a big pay-per-view fight between you. But he seems to think, he's of the opinion at least, that you don't want that fight against his son. That you're scared of his son.
Why would I be scared of Teofimo Lopez? His dad's a bit of a tosser, isn't he? He makes it more about him than it does Teofimo. He's now the world's best trainer because Teofimo beat Lomachenko. He's a fucking idiot. He's an idiot. But why would I be scared to fight Teofimo Lopez? That's just farcical, isn't it?
There's somebody else who's just joined the 140-pound division. We don't know how long he's going to stay there for. GERVONTA Davis picked up the WBA something or other belt. Yeah. I'm sure you have your own views on that. The WBA regular belt against Mario Barrios. Before we talk about a potential fight between yourself and Davis, what did you make of his performance against Mario Barrios?
I never watched the whole fight. I've seen highlights of it. The highlights that I've seen, he was getting outboxed for the majority of the fight. The highlights. He is a very, very good fighter. He is very skillful, but he was getting outboxed there by Mario. Whatever his name was, Barrios. Sorry, that wasn't me being big-headed there. I just forgot his name. But no, he was getting outboxed and he done well. He helped me with that body shot, and then that was the start of the end. But listen, I'd absolutely destroy him. It's a good fight. It's a big fight. But I would absolutely take him to bits. I would absolutely smash him to pieces.
What is it? When you hear people like Leonard Ellaby, Leonard Ellaby's come out and said, immediately that that you're essentially not a priority for them, that you're not a big enough draw for them. We've kind of seen you go back and forth with those comments recently. How does that make you feel when he's making those comments, considering what you've achieved?
Well, he was just saying what he said. Oh, there was only 1,000 people in the arena, and that says, well, there's no forget that was the restrictions in Vegas at the time, and that's all they would allow. Don't forget, I would have taken thousands of fans over to Vegas if it was open. You know, I took a big travelling support, and that arena would have been full at the MGM Grand or wherever it would have been. That would have been full. So he's talking shit that I'm not a big draw. I am a big draw.
Some of my American colleagues seem to think that you're chasing the money by calling out Gervonta Davis. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not calling him out. I just think he's a little prick. I'm not calling him out. He's not on my radar. Like, I'm not even thinking about him. Like, I'm not calling him out, but he can't be calling himself a champion at 140 because there's only one champion, and that's myself. So that's the thing that I hate about boxing. There's too many belts. There's far too many belts. All these regular belts and interim belts and diamond belts and all that, like regular and super and all that. There's too many belts. You know, there's only one champion at 140 pounds, and that's me. So they can call him themselves whatever they want, but it's fiction. You know, it's fantasy. They're not a champion at 140 pounds. There's only one, and that's myself.
If you could pick any fight, everything was kind of on an even playing field, the money was the same, the venue was the same, who would you take next?
I'd love the Terence Crawford fight. I think it's just a massive, massive fight. You know, he's undisputed at 140, the last person to do it. Then I did it. You know, I think he's deemed that as the boogeyman. You know, nobody wants to fight him, and he's too good for everyone. So I think that would just be a brilliant fight. You know, and I think I can beat him. You know, I think he's a brilliant fighter. I think he can do it all. You know, he can fight, he can box, he can move in the back foot, the front foot. You know, southpaw orthodox. He's got it all. You know, he's a really, really special fighter. But I'm a special fighter as well, and I believe in my own ability, and I think I could win that fight. You know, I just think that's a huge fight. It's a massive, massive fight for the boxing fans, pure boxing fans. That is a really mouth-watering fight, that.
I'm assuming at some point during your discussions with Top Rank over the last 18 months or so since you've signed with them, that fight has come up, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's been mentioned as well, you know, so it's not a million miles away. It's a pretty straightforward fight to make, you know. He's with Top Rank as well, you know, so it's all in-house, really, you know. It's not got all this boxing politics and all. The only thing that's discussed is how much we're getting paid and where the fight is. So that's the only thing that needs to be sorted out. So it's an easy fight to be made. So, and plus I think it's a brilliant fight for the boxing fans. That's what boxing needs. The best fighters fighting the best fighters, you know, not avoiding each other and all that stuff. You know, I think that's a great fight to be had.
Do you think you've got many fights left? You've achieved an awful lot in such a short space of time. You've kind of, by your own admission, already achieved your lifelong dream. You don't strike me as somebody who's going to have 35, 36 fights in your career. Would that be accurate? Yeah,
I don't think I'll have 30 odd fights, you know. I don't think there's any point. You know, but having said that, I love fighting. I don't want to give up boxing. I don't want to hang the gloves up. You know, I'm hungry for more success. I'm hungry to become a two-weight world champion and achieve more, you know, so, and really cement my name in the history books as a great fighter, one of boxing's greats. You know, that's the ambition and goals now. So we'll see how it goes, but, you know, if everything goes my way in the next 4 or 5 fights, I could call it a day then. You know, there's no point in keep on going just because I want to have a fight. There's no point. You know, I want to bow out the sport while I'm on the top of my game. And reached my pinnacle. You know, I still don't feel like I've reached my full potential. You know, that's why the hunger and the desire is still there. I could happily retire today on this interview and say that's me retired, and I'd be quite content to a certain degree, but I'd still be frustrated with myself because I know that I could maybe have achieved a wee bit more, become a two-weight world champion and really reached my Everest, you know what I mean? So I've got a lot of things I still want to do, so I'm not going to retire anytime soon until I feel that I've reached my potential and hit my ceiling. Then that's when I feel like I'll hang up the gloves.
We mentioned Teofimo Lopez earlier, sorry to backtrack. By all accounts, we're kind of waiting to see, well, obviously we're waiting to see what happens with his fight with Kambosos first, but people are sort of suggesting, as you mentioned earlier, the Lomachenko rematch. Yeah. 2 questions. How impressed were you with his performance in the first fight, and do you see a second fight becoming any different?
I thought he was very good. He was very good. Listen, he'd done well. You're not going to discredit it. You know, he did well to beat Lomachenko, but I think it was more Lomachenko's error in terms of tactics and things like that. I think he was injured as well. I think he had a bad shoulder too. So I think it was more on Lomachenko's sort of the way he fought. He started a wee bit too late. If he had started early, they'd won that fight. I think if they get the rematch, Lomachenko wins. But having said that, I'm not discrediting his win. He did very, very well to win that fight and beat Lomachenko. So yeah, he's a good fighter.
I mentioned Manny Pacquiao earlier. You've been a huge Manny Pacquiao fan your whole life, or certainly since you were very, very young. He's seemingly intent on taking the biggest challenges and continuing to. I don't know why we're still surprised after all these years, but he's fighting Errol Spence. Consensus being number 1 or number 2, depends on how you have it, as number 1 or number 2 welterweight in the world alongside Terence Crawford. I know you'll be wanting Manny Pacquiao to win that fight, being your hero. Do you think he can do it, pull off the impossible against Errol Spence?
Well, you never know. It's boxing, It only takes one punch. You know, anything can happen. But if you were a betting man, if I was a betting man, I would say no. I think Spence is too big, too young, too fresh, and still hungry. You know, Pacquiao's still hungry as well, obviously, but he's mid-40s now. He's not quite the same. You know, he's not quite the same as what he was. But he's still a handful. Do you know what I mean? It's still. If I was preparing for that fight, I'd be, you know, I'd definitely have the nerves, you know, because you're fighting Manny Pacquiao and he's still very dangerous and still got that speed and still got that power. So you just never know. But if I was a betting man, I'd be betting on Spence to win that fight. Probably on points. He might get the stoppage actually, but I just think it's a wee bit of a step too far for at this stage in Pacquiao's life and career.
You staying up to watch it with your Manny Pacquiao shirt on?
I'll stay up to watch it. Aye, Team Pac-Man on. Aye, I'll stay up to watch it, and I'll be cheering him on. You know, I hope he wins the fight. He's my hero. Like so. Aye, definitely. I'll be staying up to watch that, and then hopefully I can get a fight with him afterwards.
Yeah, hopefully so. That would be certainly one to watch. Okay, I think we're about there, Josh. Really good to catch up with you. Lovely to see your beautiful house that you've got with your lovely fiancée now, Danielle. You're growing up, Josh. You're undisputed champion. Your fiancée. You'll be a dad soon. You were telling me off camera. Yeah. That's not actual legitimate news, by the way. It's just me winding him up. So yeah, I think I'll leave the last word to you, really. You mentioned beforehand about wanting to bring all of the Scottish fans. I mean, one of my kind of favourite pastimes in the sport is the Flower of Scotland at a Josh Taylor fight, and getting that real atmosphere. They weren't with you over in Las Vegas when you boxed Jose Ramirez. So I'll leave the last word to you for them. What would you like to say for the people who have been there from the start, not even necessarily from your pro career, but from the very start?
All the support that I've had throughout my career, even as I was an amateur, like when I started doing well at the 2010 Commonwealth Games, the local support that I've had and the local support I've had all throughout my whole career. But just the fans in general, I've had a great journey with them. You know, they make all the nights so much more special. They make the atmosphere, they make the events, they make it more memorable for me. You know, and I know they weren't there in Vegas with me, but the amount of messages that I've received since, and still I haven't been able to go through because it takes too much time, you know, to reply to them all. But I just wish they were able to go, you know. But I believe we'll be back, and I'll make that trip for you worth it the next time. So I just want to say thank you for all the support, the messages that you give me, and you just make everything so much more worth it when I make you proud, you know. So not just the Scottish fans, but fans that I've got all over the UK now, and folk from abroad. I get messages from America, Canada, Australia, all sorts of people messaging me support, and it's just brilliant. So I just want to say thank you for the support, and hopefully I can reward you all with a big fight soon, and hopefully in Scotland, so you can all come up, and hopefully it's a nice summer's day like this in Edinburgh Castle, and reward you with a good night out and a good memory and a good event. So thanks for the support. I really appreciate it.
Okay, well, Josh Taylor, not bad for a kid from Preston Pans, the undisputed super lightweight champion of the world. Still got a lovely ring to it. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social, not just today, but over the years. Congratulations once again on a fantastic win over Jose Ramirez. I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Cheers, Rob, man. Nice one. Cheers, mate.